Move on. We'll talk more about Jake's new boss, Mr. Farage, and whether he can fix Britain's crime crisis. Nigel Farage has said he can halve crime, with plans to get tough on shoplifting and even sending some criminals abroad. Have a listen.
Reform will be the toughest party on law and order and on crime that this country has ever seen. We will aim to cut crime by half in the first 5 years of a reform government. We will take back control of our streets. We will take back control of our courts, of our prisons, and if you're a criminal, I am putting you on notice today.
So, well, I don't know if that's the vibe party there. What do you make of what your leader said?
Well, I was quite surprised that but when you said it's my new boss, I expected to see a picture of my wife on the screen.
Look, well, it's true, you're not a frontbencher, so you're free to speak.
Look, I think the thing is that if people go around any major city, I was walking home late last night in central London. I got off a tube. The streets were full of cannabis smoke. There was people with these, I don't know what they're called, but sort of balaclava type affairs on their face going around on electric bikes. A couple of weeks ago myself, I was mugged. Someone tried to snatch my phone. I think anyone who spends time anywhere understands that crime just feels at the moment like it's something that's got out of control. And I know there's sort of mixed statistics on it, but I think a lot of that is I didn't report the mugging, the phone snatching that happened to me. I didn't report it because I just didn't think it would make a difference. Now, I should have done it.
You should have done. So duty.
But, you know, I just feel that he is right to target crime because I think loads of your viewers, really interested to hear what they've got to say, loads of your viewers will be sat there saying, yeah, this just isn't the country it was 10 years ago.
Well, it's whether you can deliver on this promise to halve crime, Carolyn. What do you think?
Well, there's an irony here, isn't it? That a couple of weeks ago we had votes in the House of Commons. One was to lift the cap on £200 for shoplifting. There's a cap on it at the moment, and we had a vote. And Reform voted against that.
So you mean if you will not be chased if you steal goods to the value of less than
£200? That was brought in with the Tory government. We had a vote in the House of Commons to change that, to scrap that, so that if you, wherever you shoplift, you could be prosecuted. Reform
why did your party vote
against that? The Reform Party voted against amendments to write a legal duty into the report suspected child sexual exploitation into the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill. The Reform voted against that. Reform voted against raising the maximum sentence for possession of a knife with intent from 4 years to 14 years. So where is where is the cutting crime and...
Pause, hang on. We've got to take a break and we'll let Jake respond to that. Mr. Farage claims he can halve crime in this country with a zero-tolerance approach, with plans to get tough on shoplifting and even sending some criminals abroad. So let's just have a look at this policy. And I suppose you're sort of dressing yourself in the clothes of the forces of law and order. That's what Mr. Farage is doing. He's the tough cop now. And he's cottoned on to something here. £17.5 billion he wants to spend to halve crime. So that's the official policy of Jake's new party. And the thing he's cottoned on to really is that there is definitely distress and concern about crime, and it doesn't maybe touch the lives of politicians. So he's going to properly get to the front of it. And this is him as a police officer chasing the criminals himself. What's he going to do if he wins power? Let's see. So, police investigate all crimes. Long sentences for the worst. I mean, that should be bleeding obvious, that stuff. No early release, more stop and search, 30,000 more prison places built on MOD land, use jails in Albania, Estonia and Kosovo, 30,000 more cops, and deport 10,000 foreign prisoners. That essentially is the policy. But what's interesting is this. In the news articles, they focused on this idea that we need big strapping bobbies. We need cops with something about them. Like the police officer in Life on Mars. You remember this guy, Gene Hunt?
I think we need to explore whether this attempted murder was a hate crime, or as opposed to one of those I really, really like you sort of murders. They reckon you got...
So this is really famous. This is the story of how this cop here is projected back to 70s policing. And there's been a lot of people saying, we need some 1970s policing when people are genuinely scared of the cops. And it may be a caricature, but in the end, it was different back then. It was not Dixon or Doc Green, it was something else. This is the advert for hefty girls wanted for police force. This is the Met back in the day. You'll laugh. It says they mustn't marry or their career will end. Well, here's the opposite. This is Thames Valley Police. Our officers have lost track of how many times they were asked what height they were. Look at the difference in size between those two cops. That's maybe the kind of thing Farage wants out, and he wants the Jack Reacher model in. He wants the 6'7" cop who you're properly scared of. Is that going to work? Is that going to work? Is that going to scare the criminals?
Scares me.
Well, it did back in the day. You were scared. I was a teenager. I was scared of the cops.
Crime has changed, Jeremy. There's so much crime now, which is cybercrime and internet crime, and what you look like does not affect your ability to police crime. I just think it's quite derogatory, actually.
I cut you off before you were about to respond to Carolyn about 6 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what you were responding on.
Carolyn was making a point about there are processes in Parliament. She says reform hasn't supported some tougher measures the current government. I mean, the first thing is, look, I know this because we used to say about the Labour Party. Being in opposition is often about opposing all sorts of legislation, which even if you might support one bit, you oppose the other bit. The British public, I think, are not interested in the process. I appreciate you've got to say it. I used to have to say it myself. The British public want someone who's got a plan to tackle
we did have a plan.
crime.
And
we live in a country...
You voted against it?
We live in a country where you can't use, in major cities, your mobile phone on the street without someone snatching it from you. There are signs up all over London. Do not use your phone on this street, because it will be stolen from you. We live in a country where drugs are on every street corner. We live in a country where people shoplift with impunity. People refuse to pay fares on public transport. That sort of country where petty criminality is allowed to go completely unchecked is not long-term going to be the right country for us.
But Jake, he voted against stuff that he said now he wants to do.
Well, yeah, OK.
No, that's hypocrisy.
That is odd. Natalie in Buckinghamshire, hi.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Our first caller, we've got you. Well done, Natalie. Well, you battled through. So tell me what you think of what Mr Farage is saying. Big strapping cops, lots more money, crack down on crime.
So a bit of backstory. Back in January, my son was walking home from school with his bike and a grown adult male approached my son, punched him in the face, cut his eye, deep bruises. The police were fantastic. They managed to arrest him within a week.
Good.
He went to court. He got 3.5 years in prison.
Good.
Fantastic. I got a phone call last week from the probation officer saying that he will be out in October and the local council will be finding him a home and they will help and support him with the housing, getting a job and everything else. And I'm thinking, that's not even half his sentence.
Yeah.
There's no deterrent for criminals because they're not doing their full or even half their sentence.
Because I noticed with reform that Farage is saying there won't be any early release. So you will serve your sentence. You think that's right?
Yes, I do, because it's a deterrent.
Thank you very much.
He's not even going to be doing a year.
OK, Natalie, thank you. I just want to play this clip from Sarah Pochin, who's one of the other Reform MPs, and she's the one who talked about the size police officers need to be.
Never feel comfortable actually seeing two female police officers together. I'd much rather see a great big strapping male police officer with a female, but female police officers are incredibly...
You don't feel comfortable if there were two female trained police officers?
I think they look vulnerable, but, that's just my opinion. All I'm saying is I think that we do need to be aware of our police being able to protect us. That's what they're there for. But there's 100% a place for women police officers. We need them to go out to certain, perhaps more sensitive situations where children are involved, situations where battered wives are involved or battered girlfriends, that type of thing. Of course, we need female police officers.
Carolyn?
Well, I think that's just dreadful.
Why?
The stereotyping, that female police officers are not capable of tackling exact same crimes as men. I mean, God, that's talk about putting women back.
In a physical fight, you'd bet on the bloke to win, wouldn't you?
Women police officers get the same training as men police officers. They are trained in whatever tactics they are allowed to use, and we are limited to what we can use.
All right.
But for a woman to say that about another woman...
What do you think of that, Jake?
I can't comment about women saying things about women. And Carolyn, you were on the Home Affairs Select Committee. I might be wrong about this, but I thought there are some police forces, or there's a preference in police forces not to send 2 female officers out
I think
together.
that's changed now.
That's changed. So
I think it has.
historically, that, I mean, I say,
So they got tasers.
historically that was the case. It seems to me, you know, we shouldn't be putting any officers in danger, whether they're men or women. But, you know, if you are going to a violent affray, having the right response to it, maybe a man and a woman.
Okay,
I don't know.
let me, before you come in, I've got to go to Amanda. All our phones are now cooking. Amanda in Lancashire, hi.
Hiya.
It's interesting, is it, that Miss Poachin MP has sort of let the cat out the bag there. He's going to be out burly cops, this.
It's that's really quite silly for me. I appreciate that a big strapping bloke is likely to be scary to some. If they've got a knife or a gun, they're not going to worry about the size of the person.
Yep, and they all have tasers. Yep, fair enough.
Yeah.
What do you think of the policy on, which is them saying we will cut crime in half?
He'll never do it. It's hypocritical to say he will cut crime in half and then vote against getting rid of the shoplifting limit and not increasing the knife crime one.
Okay, Amanda, thank you. Thank you. James in Derbyshire, hi.
Hi, Jeremy. I mean, fundamentally, it all comes down to money when it comes to whether we can solve any problem, whether it's the police problem or any other. And I think that the reason the main 2 parties have caused themselves so much trouble is because they're not honest about the fact that we don't have it and the bond markets are in control. So in answer to your question about whether they can cut crime in half, I mean, they can't because they won't find the money. You know, for example, one of the ways they said they're going to fund it is cutting net zero.
Yeah.
Well, that's apparently how they're also going to fund increasing the threshold to £20,000.
Yeah.
Already kind of double counting there.
Well, it's true. Let's assume they find the money from somewhere. They maybe find it from the NHS. Where would you not think with extra money and more police you will catch more crims?
Look, I think we should definitely hire more police, but you've also got to look at the other side of it. You've got to look at the justice system. You've got to look at the massive court delays. You've got to look at the fact that barristers are profoundly underpaid at where they were 10 years ago and caused a lot of trouble striking a couple of years ago. So even if you do manage to increase catching crime, you've got a massively overcooked justice system and prison service that then have to deal with those sentences.
Yeah.
So it's a really worthy aim to want to increase crime, but it's a very kind of Trumpian hyperbole.
Go on, Jake.
In half.
Well, no, I was just going to say, James, look, on the money point, really interesting point. So it's £3.5 billion a year. That's the price that has been. Estimates will vary, accept that. But, you know, to put that into context, we're spending over £4 billion a year housing asylum seekers in hotels here in the United Kingdom. And only last week, we found out that the Treasury found £7 billion, almost down the back of the sofa, in something called the Treasury Reserve, to house 25,000 Afghan asylum seekers who'd be helping British armed forces in that conflict.
So we can find
politics
money.
is about priorities, isn't it? Nigel Farage has clearly said cutting crime, ending the lawlessness on our streets is going to be a priority of a reform government.
Thank you very much, James. Cheryl in Powys. Hello, Cheryl.
Hello, good morning.
What do you think? Can they halve crime?
Yes, I'm all for Nigel Farage. I think the Tories and the Labour have had their day, they've had their chance, and what have they done? Trashed the country. I make a prediction. By the end of next year, Nigel Farage will be in because the British public are sick and tired of their money going everywhere except here.
Go on, Carolyn.
Well, I don't think there's going to be an election next year.
Well, no,
there's going to be election in Wales. They're in Paris.
Well, but that's not Nigel Farage.
Carol's going to have the opportunity to vote in Wales. That's going to be a really interesting election.
It will be.
But it won't be Nigel Farage she's voting for.
So Scotland and Wales, is it?
Scotland and Wales, and also big elections in Greater London as well.
But what do you think of what Cheryl's saying? She's not down the road from you quite, is she? But she's not far.
That's quite a way, Powys. No, I mean, and she's speaking from the heart. I respect what she's saying. I don't agree with her. But there will not be an election next year for a new Prime Minister.
You hope.
That's the last line of defence there. Cheryl, thank you so much. Grace in London, do you think Nigel Farage can halve crime?
I'm just amused by the last comment. I mean, why does she think all our money is going elsewhere. Overseas aid has been cut to 0.3% of GDP. British money is not going everywhere else. And I think in response to this situation regarding crime, I don't disagree with all of Nigel Farage's ideas necessarily, but I think that you can't presume to cut crime in half without giving statistical analysis of how you think you would get to that particular mathematical goal. I don't know if he's got analysis to show that his proposals would cut it that much. But also an underlying problem in relation to the last point is, I think, selfishness increasing is part of the reason that crime is getting worse in our society. People thinking increasingly we should have as much as we can and not having regard for other human beings, and young people being brought up from a young age surrounded by advertising that tells them you should have this thing, you should want this thing and show it off to your friends, rather than messages we used to have in the past about selflessness. Farage has said that we need to get back to Judeo-Christian values, but he's shown again and again he doesn't know what those are. What those actually include are that we should care about others and we should want the best for others, not just want more for ourselves or more for our own nationality.
Yeah, but I think Thatcher was quoted as saying there's no such thing as society, just individual people and their families. Is that not true?
If people just want for themselves and their families, then ultimately, why wouldn't they go out and nick things from other people?
Well,
and I don't think that they should go and nick things from other people.
No, I hear you. How interesting. But I know, but that's nothing Farage can do anything about then. So if we're all selfish, we're going to commit more crimes. And by the way, Grace, it's not what the stats seem to suggest. We had a lot more violent crime in the 70s and 80s than we do now. Just saying. We don't really know why, but generally speaking, the most serious crimes are on a downturn. The one that's really obviously rocketing, cyber. Exactly. And that, the fact that some guy in Leeds had his house stolen last year because they managed to change
and most of those crimes are committed overseas. Yep,
and you can't police. They don't really police them. And some guy had the land registry changed on his house and it was sold while he was out of it. Amazing. And the police said, it's not a crime. Grace, thank you. John in London, hi.
Hi. I think Nigel Farage is a man of his word. He was the only one who, when we were in Europe, in the European Parliament, stood up and spoke about England. All the others just took their wages and went in there. Crime in London now, you're frightened to walk through the West End of London. A woman there was robbed. She was surrounded and robbed. The police were not in sight. Could not find a policeman. She looked everywhere.
Yeah.
This is the London of today. I come from a different era where we could leave our street door open and no one would come in. Now, you're frightened to even leave your door open an inch.
I know, and we talk a lot about London. I don't know London has got particular problems to do with. It's just got a very big population, and there's all kinds of stuff going on that maybe other parts of the country have swerved.
We don't have enough police officers in this country, and as I say, all political parties should bear their amount of blame for that. But if Nigel Farage and Reform are successful in recruiting these 30,000 police officers, we will still be lower than the European average number of police officers per 100 people. So Britain is very much under-policed.
Thank you, John. Later, it's the papers and everything else. Find out why.